Hello and welcome to this episode of Break Even by Breakfast on the Accounting Channel with me, Mark Sweetman. And I'm delighted to be joined today by James Ashford, founder of GoProposal, director of My Accounting Place, keynote speaker, and also best-selling author of Selling to Serve, a book about how to price and sell accounting services. James has been helping thousands of accountancy firms around the world to fundamentally transform their approach to selling. And we use this unique approach in our own firm, and it has helped us to deliver more value to our clients while also taking on higher fees. Good afternoon, James. Thanks for coming on the show. How are you doing today?
Hey Mark, yeah, great. Thanks for having us. Yeah, it's been a hectic start to the day. We had some new features go live and various other things. So yeah, everything's going really well.
That's great, great. So, James, for those who haven't heard of yourself and GoProposal, can you tell us
Yeah,
about the company, what problems it solves, and how it all began?
yeah, sure. So I was working as a business consultant, business coach, I guess at the time, and working with lots of different businesses in all different sectors, from plasterers to waste management companies, electrical companies, all sorts of different things, and fundamentally helping them to change the way that they priced and sold their services. Um, Very often people, they go out there and they try and get more customers into their business, but they've got a leaking bucket to start with. And so a great place to start is, well, let's just make sure you're charging for everything that you're doing, make sure that you're charging properly for it, and how do we solve that? So I was kind of moving through lots of different companies and having some really good, significant success with those. My background, I'm a designer, so a product designer. So what I'm able to do is kind of come into a situation and kind of see things quite differently to how most people see them. And one of the mistakes you can make is in your own business, you're just so close to it, you just can't see what's obvious, sometimes. So able to kind of help them to make those changes. And through a group I was involved with, I met Paul Barnes, who's an accountant with a great firm in Manchester. And I was looking for an accountant at the time, and we'd met a few times. So I headed over to Manchester. So I live in Yorkshire,
Mhm.
where God's from. And I had to travel over the Pennines to Manchester and met with Paul. And we went through the process, and they were a very sharp accountancy firm, very smart, very entrepreneurial. If you wanted something, they were charging you for it. He really took the time to understand my business, and what he presented to me was 3 times more than my current accountancy firm was charging me, right?
Yeah, that's
But
great.
I understood the value.
Mhm.
So at the end of the meeting, I says, right, where do I sign? He told me he was a digital cloud expert. He told me they were going to save me time. So I'm like, right, where do I sign? He said, oh, it doesn't work like that. We'll send you a proposal. We'll send you a letter of engagement. You'll sign that. I'm like, okay. So I left the meeting, kept checking my phone, got back on the train, checked my phone, got back to my wife, knew what she was going to ask me. How did it go? Brilliant. They're the best firm. We're very lucky to be working with them. They're going to really help us out. Next question. How much is it going to cost? I told her, and she's like, oh my goodness, what are we getting for that? I'm like, I have no idea, but it sounded brilliant. And I just didn't have what I needed to back it up. So I ended up talking myself out of it. And when I eventually signed up, I said, Paul, you've done a great job, but you failed at the most important part. Like, you told me you were a cloud expert. You told me you understood, you're a digital expert. You told me you were going to save me time. And the first thing you did was not demonstrate any of that and not save me any time. I said, but I've actually solved this for other businesses. So why don't I look to solve it for your business? So I introduced a piece of technology that I developed. We took his pricing methodology into the system, and it enabled him to sit with a client. And whilst I'm sat on this, whether it's a Zoom call or face-to-face, I can actually agree the fees with you in a very logical, very transparent way, and go backwards and forwards and take bits out and add bits in. And when you're happy, instantly produce a proposal, instantly produce a letter of engagement. And if you're happy, you just sign it there and then. So I introduced it to his firm, and it was called the 3-minute proposal tool. Obviously, I didn't give it that much thought, but it was just to solve their problem. We turned it on for them. And then through another friend, another accountancy firm found out what we were doing, and they said, we want that. And that was it. That was the spark that said, this is now has the potential of being a commercial project. I needed a little bit of cash to be able to turn that from a standalone application into a commercial product that would allow different installs, secure installs of that product, and for us to be able to monetize it and charge for it, etc. But when we kind of factored it out, it was only a few £1,000s. It wasn't a lot. So I kind of said, well, if I can get kind of 4 or 5 firms to commit to this and to put that £1,000 or £2,000 forward for it, then they will get the product free for life for themselves. And I've got the money to be able to turn this into a commercial application and not need any investment. And that's what we did. And that's spawned GoProposal. And now we've got over, thousands of accountancy firms using that product around the world.
Yeah, and it's great. I trained up in practice, and I recall doing proposals, and it did take the whole day, because you're going back and forth between partners, clients, making sure that all the details are correct. And this tool is extremely helpful, and it's kind of it's an obvious pain point when somebody shows it to you as well, that you're spending hours doing a proposal when you shouldn't be.
Yeah.
You should just be clicking the services that you know you offer all the time, and then it's done. So how's business going so far?
Great. We've been going 3 years now. We've never taken investment. I kind of look at, so we're a SaaS business, and I know that there's a common thing that people will take investment on and different rounds of funding. And I see them online, like they celebrate, hey, we've just taken another $20 million in investment or $300 million of investment. And that's great. Like if that's your model and that's what you're doing, then I get it. That's fine. So I don't know if it's because I'm from Yorkshire or I'm tight or whatever, or I've had a business fail in the past, and I'm very acutely aware of the importance of cash flow and finances, that I always wanted this to be a profitable business that we were in control of, that we could be in charge of. And so I decided not to take investment. And my belief in that is that it forces better decisions. Like you don't just have a pot of cash to kind of throw out there. That the lack of resources, the lack of that financial resource can actually force creativity and better solutions. So if I just give you an example, so like last year we exhibited at an event in the US, and it was like 20 grand to do this event. And I looked at it and I thought, well, what's the return? It probably wiped its face. And I'm like, why are we committing all these resources? 20 grand to an event, it's massive, right? I can get a full-time videographer for 20 grand, and I can be churning videos out daily. No one else is doing that in this space. They're all going to these events. That's the only way they're really generating business. They do the odd webinar, etc. But I can be generating high quality, high caliber videos on a daily basis for that same investment of one event. So when I just said earlier, we've just launched a new feature. I've just sent you a link for you to share with people, Mark. Yeah. That's got a video on there that videographer that I'm talking about has just created. Okay. And that video is exceptional. It is world class. It will bring in business for us. So I think if you've got a massive pot of cash, it's easy to say, well, let's go to every event, and let's not just have the silver stand, but let's have the gold stand. It doesn't force the level of thinking that is of rigor and of challenging and questioning that is needed and that we've had. And we set our budget last year in December, and before all of the COVID challenge hit, and every month we have exceeded our budget still throughout this process. And this morning, I think I can share this. You're the first person other than very close family and friends for me to share with. We have just tipped over £1 million run rate. So wow. We have just become $1 million. I've been saying for months now, we're $1 million revenue business, but we've just tipped over £1 million revenue.
That's huge. Business. Congratulations. And that's a great milestone to achieve.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Especially one who doesn't have, hasn't been invested in, basically. So that's what's really interesting about your company, is that it's one of the few companies or startups I've heard that has been completely bootstrapped from day one. And you've managed to achieve everything to date without taking any outside investment, which is extremely impressive. And I'm sure a lot of the listeners will be keen to find out how you did it. So how did you do it?
Yeah. So I mean, if that's people's journey and that's people's route that they want to take, then fair play to them. And like I say, you see people posting, we've taken this money. What you don't see people posting is, hey, just to let everyone know, we've still taken their investment and we're profitable and we've got money in the bank. So I see it as a huge advantage for us. And so it's been important to us to do that. So in terms of how we've done it is I guess making a conscious decision to do that to start with it is kind of key, that this is how we're going to play this out. It sometimes requires extra levels of patience because there's things that you want to do, there's features that you want to add or ways that you want to grow, but because you don't have that, the cash just sat there, it forces you to really prioritize. So when we kind of developed the product to start with, we couldn't add all the things I wanted to add, and it was hugely frustrating for me to start with. But then I kind of got into it and liked it, and we say no to the majority of feature requests. So clients come to us and our instant response is no. And there's a thing that you should, like, I see other people saying, well, you should at least record it down somewhere or save what they're asking. We didn't. We said no and just forgot about it. Not interested. Next, like, let's you, and then they'll come back to you and say, oh, actually, we've managed to make it work with what we have. Yeah. Wow. Like, you can do that. If you challenge, you can make it work. It's a very, because I kept going back to them and saying, look, our firm, we've significantly increased our revenue, significantly increased our profit. We've got some of the highest average fees in the UK for a UK accountancy firm. We're making this work, and you're saying that you need this. You don't. And very often people ask for things as an excuse because they're afraid. Very often sometimes people are is they're afraid to use the product as it's meant, to go and reprice a client, for example. That's the bit they're really afraid of. So they'll put forward a BS excuse as to, well, I can't use it until I get this feature. But you don't really need it. So we were happy saying no, but then what happens is the same feature requests keeps bubbling back up, and they're the ones you remember, and they're the ones that stick. And that's when you go, let's look at that one. Mm-hmm. And that's when you can, so we had a very strong filtering process, not afraid to lose clients, not afraid to stand up for our beliefs and our philosophies around our product, and not afraid to say no, and to keep it tight in our lane in terms of pricing and proposals. There's so many things you can do. This is a good phrase that someone said to me, Mark, which is, just because you can do something doesn't mean say you should do something. So there was loads of things we could do. There's loads of things we could have bolted on. We could have become this or we could have become that. But every time you bolt something on, it means that you've got to train your clients in it. It's something else that can go wrong. You've got to market that feature or that product. You've got to have staff that can support it and that they know how to handle it. It's going to have some cost implications. There'll be some knock-on effect that you don't know. And because we're a software business, the best analogy I've got, my developers credit me with it, but it seems too good for me to have come up with, so I'm sure I stole it. But it is that software and coding, to add a new feature is like trying to take a strand of spaghetti out of a spaghetti bowl without disturbing any other strand, and then putting other ones in. Yeah. And so everything has a knock-on effect. And there have been features that we've added that I was even talking about one yesterday, like, why did we add that? Like, because once you've done it, you can never take it away. And with every single thing else that we do, it causes problems. So back to your question, how do we do it? Happy to say no, keeping things tight in our lane, having a fantastic accountancy firm on board, having a clear budget and forecast in place, Mark, so that sometimes as an entrepreneur, you're like, yeah, but I want it to do that. I want to take on 10 staff. I want to do this. And what Paul, who's our accountant, because obviously I'm the director of the firm, he'd say, brilliant idea, James. That's great. Let's make a note of it. We'll discuss it in the next board meeting. We'll see if it fits in the budget, and so he really held me to task to not to make these, sometimes indulgent, egocentric decisions, and to make sure that does it take us closer towards our financial targets or not? If it doesn't, we're not doing it. I don't care if you think it's a good idea or not.
Yeah, no, that's such good advice. And I can see if you had the budget, if you had $500,000, you would probably program in every single feature request that came in the door, and just end up wasting time because you are solving probably one problem for one customer rather than, one problem for 100 or 1,000 customers, which is, it's great. So you get two benefits out of it, actually.
And we've done it. I remember we worked on one feature. That was where we didn't get this right. We worked on one feature and it took so long, and it was just slowing everything up. And then I remember saying, like, spat my dummy one day and said, why are we even doing this? Where is this coming from? And Jack said, oh, it was that one client that had requested. I said, which client? He said, oh, they've left now. I'm like, what? Why are we working on a feature that one person wanted who's now left? Like, we're never doing this again. So we really kept things tight. And then the big thing, Mark, was like, so I'm not an accountant. I'm in a space where I was told it was going to be very difficult, in that accountants can be a challenge to adopt new ideas. They're not kind of prone to wanting, new exciting things and lots of variety and uncertainty. They're very logical people. I don't want to offend you or anyone else, Mark, but accountants have two traits, right? Which is they want everything to be perfect, and they're always looking for what's wrong. And that makes them a brilliant accountant. You want an accountant that wants your accounts to be perfect and that is looking for everything that could be wrong. The problem then is when they apply that thinking to a product or a software piece of software or a process, because they're looking for what's wrong and they want it to be perfect, and it's never going to be that. So we had to become very mindful of the mindset of our audience. But what we concluded was, let's position ourselves as an authority in the space. So I wrote a book, Selling to Serve, which was how it was something that I was knowledgeable on, and it was our sales process in our accountancy firm. I just shared I gave it all away. Knowledge has no value. We become so scared of giving knowledge away. Knowledge has no value in the world. Gordon Ramsay is Ramsay Holdings, a multi-billion-dollar business, tremendously successful restaurants around the world. But he goes on TV and writes recipe books and goes on YouTube, tells you how to cook all the food. He even tells you how to set up a restaurant like his. And no one's going to put him out of business. And you bought a recipe book, you cook one recipe out of it, and you still want to go to his restaurant, right? Yeah. So knowledge has no value. So what we did was I wrote the book, we gave it all away, and I just did video after video and shared it on social. And that is how we built our audience. Our marketing spend, I will tell you now, it's always been the same since day dot, £1,000 a month. Won't go over that. Occasionally, when we did events, we would tip over. We've stopped all events now. So but even when I spoke at some of those events, sometimes that we'd go and we had to pay to exhibit there, Mark, but I would get paid to speak at them as well. So we could offset that cost. So it's $3,000 for us to exhibit, but I'm getting paid $3,000 to speak. So it's a cost neutral exercise. Yeah. So we've kept our marketing spend to an absolute minimum.
Yeah, and it's great. And that's one of the philosophies that we learned from you as well, is that, and to take it back to accountants being perfectionists, which is true. And we publish videos on our YouTube channel. And had you not said the whole version none, version one thing, which you can explain in a sec, we probably would never have published any videos, because we would say, oh no, it's not good. We look terrible. The sound's not good. We haven't edited this correctly. It needs to be, high spec. But that's not like people appreciate content. It doesn't need to be perfect.
Yes. You probably wouldn't be doing this, right? You probably wouldn't be doing this either.
Exactly. And you can always improve on version one, but you need to get something out there. Like you 100%. Said.
Yeah. So our saying is version one is better than version none. Mm-hmm. You've just got to get out of the door. And there was a time when I never did videos, and I remember speaking to someone, and he asked me why I wasn't doing this video, and I can't remember what excuse I gave, Mark. It was maybe my hair, or I'd not got the microphone, or waiting for a backdrop or whatever, right? Yeah. And he says, "Why are you being so selfish?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, there's thousands of people out there that need to hear what you've got to say today. Why are you preventing them from hearing it? Just get on with it. It's not about you, it's about them." And that was the thing that, got us out there. And one of the big things that we have with our product is that we also built a very active and engaged online community that supports, they support each other in there, which Mark. Mm-hmm. And that's a Facebook community, so a free community. We've got over 1,000 members in there. It's a hugely valuable asset of our products and our offering to members. And it also helps us to generate some brilliant questions. Like, people go and produce content out there that's not relevant to their audience. I always want our content to be very relevant to what people are asking. And so within our community, I remember we got asked a question once where it was Kieran Phelan in Ireland. Mm-hmm. And he said, someone's just asked me for a discount. What do I say? And I said, give me 10 minutes. I'll post you a video. And it wasn't in here. It was in my conservatory at home. I had a nice grey wall like this, a bookcase here, my Barcelona chair, so it looked pretty smart, and all the kids' crap piled up at the other side of the conservatory, right? So I kicked all the kids' stuff away. I had my coat on. I'd just come in, and I just did this really quick video, which was, hey, if anyone asks you for a discount, this is the only answer you ever need to learn and why you need to give it, right? It was a 3 or 4 minute video. You go on LinkedIn and type in.
I'll put the link in the
Oh yeah,
description below here.
yeah, cool, right?
Yeah.
So I did it. I did it on my iPhone. I've got a decent quality microphone that I plugged into it. And within 15 minutes of Kieran posting it, I had the video on Facebook and answered it, right? So it's the questions come from the community. I've now posted my answer. Everyone's gone, this is amazing. I love it. Fantastic. They validated my answer. I then took the same video and posted it on LinkedIn and said, hey, I've just been asked this question by someone in my community. What do you say if someone asks you for a discount? This is the only answer you ever need and why you need to give it. Within 24 hours, that video had 130,000 views.
Oh.
And there was nothing fancy. It was normal lighting, iPhone, a 30 quid microphone plugged into the bottom of it, but it was a real genuine response to a real genuine problem. And that is what we've always aimed to do.
Yeah, and I find myself just on that topic of pricing as well. I find myself giving your advice to my own clients because it's about don't discount your services, value what you do. If you do discount, your client won't value what you do properly. So price the way you mean to price it, and that's what that's your final price and offering. Just on the topic of bootstrapping, out of curiosity, if you did or could raise equity, what would you do with it, or would you need to do anything with it?
Yeah, it's a great question, and one we've been asked of ourselves, and people have asked us and challenged us on it. And so we did the exercise last year where I said to the team, right, okay, if you have any amount of money, if you drop £1 million on you all today, what are you all going to do with it? What's the client success team going to do with it? What's your marketing team going to do with it? The dev team going to do it? Go away and you can do anything you want. Tell them what it is. And they all came back, and the most they could get it to was like 200 grand or something like that, with as far as they could see and what they need to, or they needed 3 more staff there. Because if you bring on 50 staff, right, it's gonna break. You've just created a huge issue for yourself. You can't do that, right? There is a natural way of things happening. Like you have to bring team in, you have to allow the culture to adapt. Your team members need to get upskilled in how to manage them people. You need processes and systems. So to say, let's get 10 staff in would break everything, break your culture. Like there's a speed and a way that businesses should grow. And so you can't bring more staff in. So with your marketing, you now can't bring in another 200 clients a month because they can't cope and we can't bring in that number of staff. So there is a natural order and speed to things. If you want to preserve culture, preserve quality, preserve standards, I will never drop on standards, Mark. I will lose staff over it. I do not have an issue with letting staff go if they're not prepared to maintain the standards. I saw in a Facebook community thread this morning. You're waking up, and as you wake up in the morning, you wander downstairs, you look on your phone. I saw someone commented and tagged GoProposal in. So I looked at it, and somebody asked about GoProposal, and then somebody else put, the quality of their service is immaculate. Mm-hmm. And just that word immaculate, I'm like, it's beautiful. It's everything we strive to achieve with our systemization and our processes. And so we've always maintained those standards. So the best that anyone could come up with in terms of how much money we needed was 200 grand. And I'm like, we've got more than that in the bank. Mm-hmm. So why you tell me why we need investment? Because that's assuming we make no more money. We generate no more profit. I've got enough money to do everything that you guys all want to do. So let's do that. Let's get on with it. Let's get them staff. Let's bring them developments in. Let's bring these features in. Let's go.
That's a great place to be, really. That you don't even need it, So, and I think a lot of listeners would love to be in that position and grow organically. Just out of curiosity, what's your opinion on, because it seems to me that investors want to give you tons of cash, especially when it looks like you've got product market fit and market validation, give you tons of cash and just sell and basically conquer the world. Is that it's something you don't agree with? That you just think it should just purely be organic, and you shouldn't try.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
Go on, sorry, Mark. You shouldn't try.
Like you shouldn't try and just boost your sales, even if you're loss making, just so you get this huge customer base, basically.
Yeah, I don't believe in doing that if you're loss making, and I the thing that it's very simple. The thing that's going to give you the results that you want is your standards that you hold for yourself. And so if you're going to do that and you're going to scale at that speed, then certain standards are going to have to be sacrificed potentially. And then it's down to your decision to decide whether you want to do that or not. And I'm not against anyone that wants to scale and grow their business and bring in investment and to generate as much money as possible. That's absolutely cool. I think my natural tendency is I'm an artist. Like I do care about what we create. That's not to say that we wouldn't scale it more or faster, or there wouldn't be a time where, you know, investment made sense. But I don't think I'd want just cash. I'd want it'd be a partnership where people had the client base, or there'd have to be something else, not just cash, because we don't need the cash. So I think I'd be more interested in strategic partnerships, or,
like,
you know, acquisition.
Xavier or that.
Well, yeah, that's a great integration that we did today that we launched today, and what we developed there. But that's obviously requires no investment. That is just smart thinking. Like, we've just put together a great feature that will genuinely serve the client. This is another thing, Mark, as you're saying that, like, my belief is our true north is care. Like, if you just care about what you're doing and who you're doing it for, that will guide the correct decisions, right? So, like, on stage at the beginning of this year, we'd won a Zero award, and there were like 10 other firms that got up there and got an award, and they all mentioned their own firm and thanked Zero, and they thanked their own staff. But there was half of the award winners mentioned one other app, and that was GoProposal. They mentioned us as someone that, as a firm, and they didn't even know I was there. The first person did it. Rachel Purdue, she was there, and she said, I just want to thank GoProposal, I want to thank James Ashford. She went, he's there. And that was the first time anyone knew that I was there, because I was stood at the back, right?
Okay.
And we create so much goodwill. We create raving fans who will defend us to the hilt. They will go out there and they will advocate what we do. And my belief is, like, if you had no access to marketing, if you couldn't do anything, what could you do? And the only thing you can do is provide an incredible service, incredible product with the most incredible service you possibly can. And, you know, we tried a salesperson, and I wouldn't put them on commission, because we have a profit share in GoProposal. So we have a flat rate profit. So everyone, regardless of what your income is, what your salary is, you all get the same profit share that's shared at quarterly. And I don't want to reward a salesperson for a commission when, actual fact, the marketing person was involved in that, the onboarding person, the developer. It's like, why would you? I always disagree with rewarding footballers like goal scoring bonuses, because if you're running towards goal and there's a 80% chance that you could score, but a 95% chance that he could score, but you get your bonus, you're going to bang it in. You're going to go for it, right? Yeah. You want to reward the result that you're all going to achieve. So I wouldn't have a commission, and we brought a sales guy in, and I just didn't believe it. And what I've got is, I'm not against sales. I love sales. And we've got a sales culture. Everyone in our firm is selling, and you're selling all the time. Every email, every phone call, every live chat, I am selling, because it's so easy to cancel our product. I've made it deliberately easy. There's one massive button that says cancel. I actually tell people that when we're onboarding them. I'm saying, before you sign up, let me show you how easy it is to get out of this, right? And it's a monthly billing, cancel when you want. So we're all selling all the time. You know, so and I don't know if I actually answered your question there, Mark. Sorry,
no, that is, and I was actually going to move on to that, because I did hear you didn't have a salesperson. And again, I think a lot of startups would love to know, how do you not have a sales or commercial director and still run a successful company, still have sales itself, you know? And that you know, it's perfectly answered there. Get the whole team involved, basically, and make a product that everyone loves. And you motivate your staff. How do you motivate your staff on achieving that goal? So everyone's working towards the same goal in the same direction. Yeah,
everyone's rewarded for So we use OKRs. So we have a quarterly planning session, and they all know what we're trying to achieve with the business, and they get to create their own OKRs, and they set their own goals that their team are going to work on. And they can set stretch OKRs. So OKRs an objective and key results. And the reason why I like them is because we had the traction model before, whereby you set rocks and goals, and that's great, and we adopted that. But what I love about OKRs is that you can set a goal that you can't hit, and that's fine. Like, it's deliberately not intended to be hit. And if everyone's hitting their goals, it's because you've either not set them far enough, you're not set them far enough ahead because you're scared of getting things wrong or falling short, but then that can hold you back. So the entire team are responsible for driving the goals and for moving the business forward. We have playbooks and processes for everything, so they're very much in control of what they do. We've just recruited 3 new people. I had no involvement in the recruitment process, the interview process, the saying yes of them, the training. The team do that because we've developed the processes to do that. We have a very, very strong culture of strict core values that we share and that we imbue into everybody. We had tremendously high standards. I will never let anyone drop below that. If they're dropping below that, they'll be educated as to why we do things in a certain way. They'll be given training and support. And if they continue to drop below that, they're gone. Not an issue, because it's not fair on the rest of the team. I had it with a member of staff throughout all this period. And I got on a call with everyone and I said, look, we're all working from home. It's all a bit of a challenging time. It's all difficult. I said, do you honestly think that I expect 100% from you every minute of every day? I said, absolutely, I do. What I don't expect from you is the 300% that I put in every single day. But I do expect 100% from you every minute of every single day. So that's the standard I uphold, and they uphold it, and they're rewarded for it. They get paid well. They get paid well. They'll get gym membership. They've got flexible working. I respect the fact that they have lives, and I would never expect any member of my staff to miss a kid's sports day or to, miss anything important at all. It's just life. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So we're very respectful of that. And one thing we introduced last year for the first time was, I said, when you get to that awkward part of the year, when you start to discussing pay rises, you go and you think about it and they think about it. I'd have said to the team, you tell me what you want to get paid next year. You decide your own pay rise. Come back to me, justify it. Tell me how, make it easy for me to say yes, justify the value you're going to bring. And everyone came to me with their pay rise and justification, with the exception of one person who, he knew what he wanted to be paid, but he didn't know what extra value he could bring to the party. So I helped him with that. And then he came back and presented it. And we was able to pay every single person those pay rises. So it's just this concept of entrepreneurship that, I'm the entrepreneur. I can make decisions about what I want to do. And I'm in control of my life. And I love that and what that affords me. But obviously I'm taking risks by having the business. It's my house on the line at the end of the day. Yeah. And I put the extra effort in to afford myself the rewards that I deserve. But my team, we have this idea of entrepreneurship, that they do have a sense of control. They can steer the business in a direction. They can recruit staff. Back to budgets and forecasts, Mark, we've got a budget in place. So my team don't have to come to me and say, can we have an extra member of staff? They know what the budget is for the year for staff. We agreed it at the start of the year. And if it changes, we can change it. That's fine. But it means that they can go and employ people because they say, oh, we're meant to take this member of staff on here. I know what I can afford to pay them. They can go, they can negotiate salaries, they can make the decisions. So they have that control over their own life of what they want to earn, and they're driving things forward. That's what inspires them. And the only other thing to add to that is we have one-to-one. So I have a one-to-one with my key team members, and they in turn have one-to-ones with their team as well, where we'll sit and we just have it's not a one-to-one at the end of the year. It's every 2 weeks, at the most.
Yeah. Well, that's quite frequent, actually, because I think the most frequent I've ever seen it is once every 6 months or so. So
yes,
and it's not near adequate enough, because you need to talk to somebody if they're not performing well then and there, or close enough to it, I think.
Yeah,
or if
100%.
They're performing very well, you need to show your appreciation definitely straight away.
I do that every week. Every single week, we have our own Facebook group for the team. I will post a video in that group every week acknowledging members of staff for the work they've achieved, picking people out and celebrating their successes. We have two people who work remotely. We have one offshore person in the Philippines on client support. She's been with us just over 2 months now, and she's phenomenal. The quality of work. And we had a client message us saying, just had to come off a call with Stephanie. She's exceptional. The support she gave to us was unbelievable. Really helped me out with this. So that was then my video for for the week. Like, well done, Stephanie, for achieving these results. Amazing.
Just to finish up the interview, what if you had one piece of advice for somebody starting out or who has already started out their startup company, what advice would that be? What would you give them?
Yeah. So if somebody's just starting out or thinking about starting out, you don't have to go all in. It doesn't have to be kind of whatever or bust. You can hold a job down. Like when I set GoProposal up, I still had my other work. I was still doing consultancy work and making sure that revenue was coming in, and then slowly transitioned into GoProposal, and then got the revenue coming over there. And whilst it wasn't a step, there was still a little bit of a leap to go into it. I was just sensible about it and picked the time right to then step into this, then to drive that forward, then to bring my team on board. So I guess it's been very sensible with that. And historically, I've had a business that failed, and it failed because of nothing that we did wrong. We were a good business. It was a marketing agency we had. We had great clients, great support, staff loved us, great team, etc. We didn't have the finance function in place, Mark. Mm-hmm. You need the full finance function in place. You need that visibility. You need to invest in that part. It's the first thing to shore up in your business. You need a great accountancy firm on your team who can help to fulfill that. You need visibility of your data on a weekly basis. You need to become conversant in the language of money and of finances. And I messaged Paul the other week. I can't remember what I asked him about. It's something to do with balance or P&L or something like that. And he says, James, I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to show you where to find it. I want you to go find it yourself. So just having people on your side who can help you with that, and not to scrimp on that. When people go for it, they will typically underinvest in the finance function of their business. You've got to invest at an appropriate level. It will typically be more than anyone else that you're speaking to, because it should be, I don't know, around 1%, 2%, 3% of your, something like, say 2% of your revenue into that finance function of your business, to make sure that you've got what you need and that you're making decisions as best you can based on as much evidence as you can. You won't always have it to start with, but with our best guess, with our best, armed with as much data as possible, let's make those decisions, and let's not make any decision that's going to sink the boat.
Perfect. And I totally agree with all of those points. And it is something that's seriously underinvested in, I think, from startups. It's very important to get, because accountants are not just compliance people. They advise you. If they're worth their salt, they will advise you on your business and make sure they help you succeed in creating a decent business. There was a webinar earlier today, data-driven pricing. Yes, the Xavier integration with GoProposal, which I'm very excited, and I will watch. I'll also post a link down below for any accountants who are watching. It's very exciting, and I was very excited about it when I first saw it, because I was thinking, this is great. You can know how you're supposed to price, like how much volume and traffic is going through your business for each client. That's
100%. And the way that's landed, the way that feature landed today, the feedback from people is insane. And they're all going to be all over LinkedIn and everywhere sharing that today. Yep. And because we've not got investment, we've not got people, shareholders or whatever, breathing down our necks saying, no, the next feature you must bring out must be this, because this will generate this revenue or whatever. Like, sometimes you've got to play a longer game. And when we bring something out, it's not because it sounds good on a marketing spin or whatever. It's because it's genuinely going to impact and serve our clients. Like, people very often, this is my parting words, I guess, Mark. Very often people think short term. They think, even with regards to sales, they're trying to sign people up this week or this month, or with a product they're looking for return, like in the next month or whatever, in short term. The longer term that you can think, if you can play the longest possible game, because there's a great book called the Infinite Game. The moment you take investment, you're playing a finite game. There are winners and there are losers, but you've got to sell. It's the only option. You got to sell. We're playing an infinite game, and when you start to play that, the only goal is to keep playing. And rather than have an exit strategy, it's about having option strategies. So you can sell, but you can also scale, or you can step back, or you can do whatever. And just that idea of play the longest possible game you can, and your goal should just be to keep playing.
Great. That's great. Thanks very much, James. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Wish you every success in the future.
Yeah. Cheers, man. Thank you.
Bye-bye.